Hey everyone, today I'm going to talk about this article called Connecting with New Partners in the COVID-19 Response, whose main author is David Grizzle. It does have several authors on it. David Grizzle is an emergency manager, Amy Goodin is an instructor in political science, and Scott E. Robinson is the chair of the Department of Political Science at the University of Oklahoma. All the authors worked in Oklahoma at the time of publication, so this primarily focuses on a city called Norman, Oklahoma, where they all seem to live and work at the time of the publication. The problem specifically is centered around that city in Oklahoma, where in the wake of COVID-19, it was becoming really difficult to recruit diverse employees and it's extremely challenging. Of course, while they're talking primarily about Oklahoma, this was a wide scale problem that was not only faced in that area. COVID-19 requires a lot of collaboration between groups and agencies that might not have previously worked together. So the authors argue that it's extremely important to build a network of individuals with diverse backgrounds in order to collaborate during this instance of emergency management, as well as future circumstances that may come up as well. Of course, it is important not only to build these networks, but to sustain them. So now that we're almost 3 years into COVID-19, we might be seeing some new emergency management problems arise where these networks that were built during the peak pandemic can continue to support the area. Part of this article talks about recruiting new staff members and the importance of that. But of course, recruiting new people to join a team can sometimes cause tension for existing members. That's one problem they'll face as they try to address this problem. Other problems, such as that one, might arise. And as we talk about the importance of seeking a diverse team, this not only pertaining to race, ethnicity, religion, economic status, but of diverse professional backgrounds as well. If a manager is not actively taking that stance in mind, thinking to themselves, I really want people with diverse backgrounds who can build and bring multiple perspectives to the table, that manager might fall on existing hiring patterns and might see themselves recruiting people who are similar to those who already work for their organization. Some important vocabulary that was within this article include wicked problems. They define wicked problems as a problem that cross traditional boundaries of policy areas and therefore need diverse networks to analyze. For example, COVID-19. So we've got this not only a public health problem, but it presents so many other issues like how can we effectively manage the education system during this time? How can we continue to build up the economy? How can we make sure that people are still receiving the vital services that they need, like access to food, access to like the social services, like foster care placements and things like that, when it's so important to maintain a distance from others. Another vocabulary word is homophily, which means that people tend to want to form connections with others who are like themselves, and doing so will extremely limit the diversity and creativity of their team and of their team's perspectives. The proposed solution is that teams should always be studying the problems at hand, the needs of the community, and the assets within the community. And if they're effectively seeking to solve those problems, they will be building a diverse network, a diverse team who can most effectively get together on that. The benefits of a diverse team is that those team members will have diverse skills can work on diverse projects. Part of a policymaker's job is to plan for the unexpected. So diverse teams with diverse backgrounds will anticipate many future possibilities, make sure all the bases are covered, bring forth all of their unique assets. As I said, this case study focuses primarily on Norman, Oklahoma. It's near the Oklahoma City metropolitan area, has a population of about 123,000 and an 18.5% poverty rate. Like many other cities, the mayor of Norman had issued a stay-at-home order during the peak pandemic. And in order to address the needs of the community, Norman, Oklahoma created a very diverse network that exhibited basically all of these great qualities that the authors are arguing every city should build at the time of an emergency, or even outside of an emergency, anticipating that emergencies will always arise. And of course, these not only support during a time of emergency, but at any time in history. We always need diverse teams. During COVID-19, these are some of the people that got together in Norman, Oklahoma to try to address the community's problems. The Norman Police Department, the Norman Fire Chief, who doubled as the emergency manager, government leaders, private sector representatives, healthcare representatives, and social service providers. All of these people together were able to pool from their diverse backgrounds to most effectively meet the needs of their community. Some people in those network would serve consistently on that problem, like obviously perhaps the emergency manager, whereas others might be called upon when needed. When they think to themselves, I think that I need the perspective of a private company. Maybe they'll call on that private sector representative. When they're talking about the needs of families who are facing poverty, who are facing displacement, maybe that is when they might call on the social service providers to learn a little bit more about the needs. Diverse teams can support community needs during COVID-19 by offering consistent communication during times of crisis between the agencies, and therefore, consistent communication can help meet those community needs. We're also going to want to recruit diverse citizens to become involved, not only people who work for these agencies, but anybody in the community who has ideas they'd like to put forth, think might be helpful, need a space to be able to voice those concerns, to voice those ideas. Diverse networks easily connect even more people and allow people with diverse needs to be easily connected with the organization, with the contact that they might need in that time. Perhaps you need to find out where a soup kitchen might be in your community. If you've got so many people involved, they can immediately say, this is the closest one to you. This is the best one to meet your needs. And having diverse people from diverse agencies to rely on when people have questions of how they can meet their needs is extremely helpful. It's also really important to connect existing organizations to band those resources together and collaborate with as many people as possible. Organizations need to take time to understand one another's strengths and needs. We've got multiple organizations, maybe multiple homeless shelters in the area. If those homeless shelters are collaborating with one another to say, my shelter is out of beds for the night, but hey, I know this other shelter only a mile away that does have some beds for tonight. Therefore, it's not just one organization turning people away, but referring them to another organization that might be able to help. That's just one small example. And of course, using social media effectively can help to connect people to the resources that they need, that can help people to educate themselves about what else is going on in the community, what other connections they might be able to make to better serve the people who are asking them questions, people who they know who are in need of help. And maybe the emergency manager themselves is not sure how to help that person, but they know who they can reach out to make sure that that person does receive the help that they need. And having regularly scheduled online meetings where all of these people within the network can get together to propose solutions, to update on how things are going, to voice their concerns, to collaborate with one another is going to be so important. The other thing that I was asked to discuss today is my experience with these concepts of working in diverse teams. I am a high school American history teacher, and I'll just use it's obviously kind of a smaller example than this life or death situation that was proposed in this case study regarding COVID-19. But in my experience of working with a focused team of like-minded individuals versus a diverse, large team of people who can support more. So, for example, as an American history teacher, I meet with the other American history teachers at least every week, usually every day. And we look over our data. We look over what lessons are approaching. We'll say, hey, so the students didn't do as well on this. How can we better review this when we're looking at our data? We can look at, you have this activity, I have this activity. Let's pull the strengths from each of them, improve, and plan a really effective lesson for next week. Super beneficial. But we are all really like-minded. We've worked together a while. We know our subjects so well. But let's expand the network a little bit. Let's say we want to meet with some English teachers and talk to them about how we can better implement effective writing skills, effective reading of primary sources within the social studies classroom that also benefits their experience in their English classroom. Maybe open it up to some science teachers. Where in history were some significant sciences developed, and how can we connect that to the science curriculum? Open that up even further. We're teaching about American history. What figures in our community are having such an important impact on history that might be willing to share their experience more specifically with our classes? Give them some real world examples of how they can make a historical impact. Maybe teaching about civics, economics, how they can get involved in their community, how they can get involved in politics, bringing in some local politicians to teach about their personal experience working in public policy, working to do exactly what we talked about in this case study, meet the various needs of the community by expanding their network. Those are some ways that, okay, we get together with just the American history teachers, doing good, developing a decent lesson. But if we expand that network to a diverse group of people who can bring multiple perspectives, multiple background knowledge, we can develop a great lesson, not just a decent lesson. So it's extremely important, no matter what field you're in, whether it's policy or something completely different, that you're taking the time to make sure that you're talking to people not only who have the exact same or very similar job to you, but people who might have something to add to the table that you might not expect. Thank you all so much for listening. Hope this was helpful. Talk to you soon. Bye.